Today, I want to go over one of the best hacks you can do to make sure you score really well on your board interview. Let's discuss. Hey, before we get started, listen, we have two gifts down in the description for you. One is the Getting Started workshop. It's going to walk you through every phase of the hiring process for police officers, let you know what you need to do and what you're in for when you're going through this process, give you those inside tips. Additionally, there's some hidden bonuses in there for you that might allow you to evaluate where you're at and if you're ready to go through this hiring process. Additionally, if you have anything specific to your hiring process where you have questions, anything you want to know, jump on a free coaching call with me. I'd be glad to sit down, discuss it with you, and see where you're at and how you can proceed forward with the hiring process. Now, you're in the hiring process, right? Maybe you've completed your written exam, your physical exam, and now you're going up for your board interview. Your first real, they're all important, but your first real big impression with the hiring officials at this department, right? It's a panel interview, usually of senior personnel. This is the time you really want to sell yourself. Remember to be specific, don't elaborate, but you can kind of sell it a little bit, right? Really put it in there. The question is are you good at taking or are you good at doing interviews, right? Especially a panel interview for a position as hard as law enforcement to get into. How do you do with 5, 6, 7 other people sitting across from you, all asking you questions, all writing down, not giving you an inclination of how you're doing, and ultimately determining whether or not you make it past this process, which can also hurt you for the next department you apply to. Everyone at this point, if you're old enough, you have heard of the Knack, or maybe even in college or somewhere along the line, you've heard of the trick and the ability to sit down and help your public speaking, right? Go in and rehearse a speech in the mirror. That tactic is well thought out, right? It's you see yourself talking and you kind of get the idea of talking to individuals without actually talking to individuals. So it's a good training tip, right? But with technology, we can leverage it a little bit better. Everyone these days has a cell phone, right? You take your cell phone, you put your cell phone pointed at you, but not where you can see your actual image, right? You don't want to do it where it's facing you like you're doing a selfie. Actually turn it around and face your camera screen away from you and turn on your outside camera or your back camera and set it up for record. You don't have to do this for 20 questions, but do it for 5 or 6 questions where you can record yourself and see if you're using filler words, if you have a nervous twitch or some type of nervous movement. There's a lot of things you can do. And if you can't see yourself, you're not trying to immediately correct it. You're actually getting a good baseline of where you're at. What I would do is I would go get a bunch of, practice board questions. One of the things that we do all the time for our coaching members is we do mock boards, right? And we do this and we give them actual feedback. And one of the things I tell them to do before the mock board is do this and try to mitigate any of those early onset board issues that they can have, right? Those interview issues, using words such as, like, those words are really just filler words. And after a while, they become so repetitive or they become so daunting that the hiring officials or the interviewers start picking up on it. And we write it down, and we don't write down nervous, we just write, poor communication or inability to communicate effectively. And you don't want that from any member on the board who's interviewing you. So one way to do this is to start mitigating it. And you do it as a filler word. Actually having an silence for a little bit won't really have too much impact on your actual board, right? You can take a few seconds every now and then and see if it makes a big difference, and it gives you that time to think, just like what I was doing there for the last 20 seconds, right? I was pausing, giving myself a time to think, right? Even if it's not at the perfect moment, which there are perfect moments to pause, and you can create those. But even if it's not, you can still find a good time to just kind of add a pause in there. It doesn't have to pauses feel a lot longer than they are. If you were to record a pause, it would not be as long as you think it is, but they feel a lot longer to you when you're nervous, right? When you're in front of a whole panel and they're drilling you with questions and you really want the job. But you don't have to really worry about it because pauses aren't as long as you think. So you set yourself up, maybe turn those ums and likes and so's into pauses. Instead of going through the situation and trying to answer a question. Yeah, my name's Frank. One reason I want to be a police officer is I really have a passion to serve others. I've always had a passion to serve others. I always decided that that's what I wanted to do. I started in the military when I was young. I joined the military, and then even throughout the military, I knew I wasn't going to make the military a career, excuse me. So I finished my 6-year term contract and I got out with an honorable discharge. And from there, I decided I was going to join law enforcement. And I went to this police academy. Those pauses aren't bad, right? And it's so much better than, and it gives you actually a little bit more time, and it's better than using the word as, yeah, so like I went through the military, and from there, I got out of the military, and then I went to the police academy because I wanted to become a law enforcement officer. And I've always wanted to be a police officer. It just sounds bad. It sounds unprofessional. You don't want to go that route with it. So stay away from it. Set your phone up to record. Find some online questions or board interview questions, right? Find some board interview questions or just online interview questions, right? You can Google it. We have a whole mess of them in our online academy as well. So get a whole bunch of those questions, and just maybe, one day a week or whatever you're doing to practice, however close it is, right? Get a good practice schedule in there and record yourself doing 3 or 4 questions, and then watch your playback, go back and watch it and say, oh, wow, I'm doing this. I'm really leaning back a lot when I'm nervous, or I'm leaning forward, or I'm shifting back and forth. And I tend to look away when I'm answering and talking to individuals because I can't look them straight in the eye, or I'm saying the words like, I'm saying that a lot. And learn how to get out of that habit. I'm not saying you need to be perfect. I make those mistakes all the time too, especially when I'm talking here on each episode, and then I go back and watch it later and say, man, I used some filler words in that. It's okay, but learn how to work yourself out of that situation. And recording yourself is a great hack to do that. Leverage technology to your advantage. And then as you gain more confidence, then maybe you can try it on maybe a family member or something more at home, right? So use that. Look at it, see what works for you, see what you're doing. It's having that knowledge is the first step, and it's the right step to correcting any issue. Having that knowledge first. I hope this really helps. This is a bit of a shorter one, but I really wanted to give you just some tangible advice to do right now. I do this all the time with our coaching members, and then everyone has access who take our online course to mock interviews and seeing how I answer mock interviews. And this is one of the things that I teach in that as well. It's effective. It works really well, and it helps our members score really well in their board interviews and rank really high as a hiring candidate. So do it. Passing this knowledge on to you. Down below is some more knowledge for you. The Getting Started workshop is going to walk you through every aspect of the hiring process, plus those hidden bonuses in there, help you gauge where you're at. Additionally, if you have something that you want to know more, maybe you want to see how you're doing in an interview, or maybe you want to figure out how you can speak a little bit more professionally in public setting or in a panel board interview, reach out to me. I'd be glad to sit down with you with a free coaching call. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.